Now, we often talk about the importance and the power of teams. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But before you start thinking about 100 people on your team, 200 people on your team, and you're just getting started, you need your core allies. You need your essential assistants, those individuals inside your organization that are non-negotiable for your success. Now, these positions are what I call non-negotiables. These are the people inside your organization that you will need right off the bat. These individuals will ensure that not only you make money, but you multiply money and preserve money. Now, this isn't just a behavior that entails changing your mindset, but it's a behavior that entails changing those people that you allow around you. You need to surround yourself with people that are serious about seeing you win and serious about business. The first person you need is a lawyer. The lawyer, right? The person that understands the legal framework of the places that you reside, the places where your businesses operate. It is essential and key that you have a legal understanding and a legal framework to protect you. Now, we often hear this saying of, it doesn't really matter, you can deal with it later. But as technology advances and as everything connects, here, let me give you an example. I just went over to open up a bank account because I wanted to buy something that was overseas, right? So it just made sense to have a European bank account. Some way, shape, or form, they had my ID, and the European bank account asked me verification questions that they had no clue or should have no idea about regarding my personal life that only you should know if you kind of know me personally, which shows you that there's an interconnection and a linking between banking ecosystems that tells you that everything is intertwined. So everything's connected. You need to make sure that you are secure, that you are safe, and that you are ensuring that as you build your wealth, that there's a hedge of protection around it. When it comes to legalities, when it comes to people suing you, people wanting money from you, employees going rogue, whatever it may be, you need legal framework. You're going to go into ventures, you're going to go into affiliate partnerships, you're going to go into equity deals. You need to be able to build with a lawyer long-term. Now, the reason I mention these, people are like, oh, well, these are obvious. They're obvious, but people don't necessarily do them. One. Two, not only do they not do them, but they are in a situation whereby they do not understand that these aren't just employees, right? These are positions of power, and these people need to become allies. These people have a lot of confidence, and you need to have a lot of confidence in them because their position is so important. So a lawyer knows every detail about your personal life, knows the framework of your legal status. This person can do a lot of damage if the situation goes sour. You need to be able to maintain a really good relationship with a legal team. That's number one. Number two is your CPA, your public accountant. You need somebody that manages your finances. You need somebody that looks at your money. This person will be giving KPIs, key performance indicators, and metrics. We'll talk about goals in another video that you need to set. But once these goals are set, this person ensures that you are hitting them effectively and efficiently. You need somebody managing your expenditure. You need somebody giving you a reality check on a regular basis with regards to your current financial situation. And it's important because now you've covered your legalities, now you've covered your business side, but it's important to understand that the people who have access to your money are people that as you scale, you need to trust. So you need to be able to find these people early on, hence why I'm mentioning these things. Don't go find some Filipino freelancer for $20 a month to run your books. That's not how you're going to build a business. Your business is built on trust. And these key positions, remember, I told you these are non-negotiable hires. These are the people in your team that you need yes or yes. Number one, you're going to need your legal team. Number two, your CPA. And number three, you need a sales team. It doesn't have to be a big sales team, but you need somebody that's in charge of cash flow and somebody that's in charge of income. You need income, income, income. You can have a CPA, but if you can't pay him, he's going to leave. You can have a lawyer, but if you don't pay him, he's going to leave, right? These people have retainers. So you need sales inside your organization, inside your business. I don't care if you're a freelancer. You need somebody operating in sales. If that's you right now, that's perfect. But if you want to build an organization where you're scaling outside of it, you need somebody in that position. It is important, it is foundational, and it is non-negotiable for what I call your key players. Somebody that's in charge of money, somebody that's in charge of bringing money, and then somebody that's in charge of protecting your assets and protecting your ass. right? So you need this group of people, you need these individuals, and once you have them, you start building your team outwards. Every individual at a business level needs these people, and at a financial level, they need these people, and at a personal level, they need these individuals as well. So once you understand that your core players are not just employees, but they are team players that are essential for your success. These are individuals that you're going to be building long-term with. Then your paradigm shifts as to how you treat them, how you scout them, how you build relationships with them, and how they're going to ultimately help you reach your goals. Legal, financial, and income. These are your three non-negotiable roles. It doesn't matter if you're running a side hustle, a business, an affiliate ecosystem, or any sort of small little hustle. I don't care. These are your hires. This is your team. This is your ride or die. And you build and you scale from there. Well, what do you scale, you may ask? Well, you're going to scale three things: your personal finance, your business finance, and your estate, which we will cover in the next data set. Denzel Washington famously said, "Dreams without goals are just dreams, and ultimately they fuel disappointment." If you want to achieve something, you need a goal. We talked about the importance of establishing a team that pursues a goal because you cannot do it alone. You need people that are key, integral parts of your business. Hopefully you already hired them ever since we spoke in the last data set. But now it's hire them for what? And it's to obtain your goals. So your three goals on the financial side need to be established by the end of this data set. This data set is designed for you to establish how much money do you want to make? Because a lot of you guys do not have that concrete goal. In order for you to know where you want to go, you have to establish a destination. If you want to determine how much money you want to make, well, you have to first determine how much money you want to make. So the question is, how much money do you want to make? And this divides itself into three segments. First, it's going to be your personal finance. So every time the business makes money, and we understand that if you want to make money, you need to provide a service, and providing a service is to be in business, you need to pay yourself. You need to pay yourself off the top. Every time money comes in, the first person that pays himself is the owner. Why? Because you need to take money off the top. And I'm not saying when the business is struggling or when the employees aren't being paid. Once everything's taken care of, the first thing you do is you pay yourself. Why? Because it's your sweat equity, it's your time, it's your effort and your energy and attention. And the reason you're going into business is to make money. The reason is to get rich. Unless you're going into business for charity, then you're not running a business, you're running a nonprofit. So now that we're in a situation whereby we understand that we need to establish a goal. Your goal should be an incremental goal. You can increase your earnings by 10% a year, right? It doesn't have to be insane, but you can't tell me that you can't increase your income by 10% every single year in a sustainable fashion, in a consistent fashion. If you can, then you're doing extremely well. But you need to have that goal. That goal will then lead to actions. But the team that you have cannot act unless you have an objective. So you need to have an objective for your personal finances. Your personal finances are going to be broken down in three categories. You're going to have your income, what you make. You're going to have your investments, and then you're going to have your assets, right, at a personal level. Now, you don't want to hold too much on your personal level. And the reason you don't want to hold too much on your personal level is because the governments around the world, they view most entities or most individuals as entities the same way that they would view a corporation or an LLC. So you want to be able to establish a person, yourself, that has a credit score and that has some sort of history, but you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket because you want your money secured within the structure of an organization, which we'll talk about your corporate finances, and that being the second kind of ecosystem you need to focus on. And you have different team players focus on different things, right? And in your personal finance, you have people more focused on preserving, making sure your credit score is clean, making sure your track records are good, making sure that everything is transparent and visible. On the corporate side now, which is the second objective, is your corporate finances. What are the financial goals of your corporation or your organization? What is your yearly objective when it comes to revenue? What is your monthly objective? What is your weekly objective? And so forth. You need to establish these goals. Now, when it comes to corporate money, you don't have to pay yourself directly to yourself as a salary, just you can pay yourself as a dividend. And there's countries that allow you to pay yourself in a dividend fashion that is tax-free. Now, unfortunately for the United States, you have to pay your tax on your dividends, but that's not the case in every single country. So if you form a structure with a specific team that your corporate finances are established in a very organized fashion, making sure that your personal finances are established so that you are protected, you have a good standing with the banks, and you have good credit, but without mitigating, and imposing too much risk, but mitigating it otherwise. And then finally, you're going to have your estate. Now, these are the people that are focused on preserving your money. These are people that are out there designed to make sure that when you're no longer able to work, and most of you guys are in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, you think that you're going to be able to work at the same pace and the same level forever and always, and that's just simply not the case. So once you have the opportunity to actually go in and grind, you need to be taking advantage of this opportunity so that you can actually build your estate. And you need people managing your estate from the legal side, whether you're building a trust, whether you have an insurance policy. It doesn't matter if you're building your wealth overseas or there's a lot of Chinese wealth in Los Angeles. A lot of it is deposited in real estate, right? But you need to have that estate set up, if that makes sense. Now you're in a situation whereby you have good corporate settings. You have cash flow coming in, so you can pay yourself dividends as you earn money. You can pay yourself dividends, and then you can also put money into your estate. But you need to be able to have these micro teams, and you need to have objectives for each pool. So the question is, for you, my friend, my fellow entrepreneur, a person that's trying to become financially free, what are your financial goals at a personal level, at a corporate level, and at your estate level? You need to be able to make 1-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and then you need to be able to have an understanding of what you want your estate to comprise to pass on. Now, this needs to look not only just on the variable side of the stock market. I mean, I'm passing down a stock portfolio, but you need something that has a fixed income that is predictable and gives you cash flow, because we understand that cash flow is king and cash flow equals freedom. So we have the teams. Now we have the goals. And finally, we have to talk about the decision-making process as to when we make financial decisions, because it's not just about having a financial plan, but it's about when to execute on it, which we will cover on the next dataset. Now, the beauty about investing, the beauty about growing your money and really being able to build out the team that dictates the execution of your financial goals is that you have the decision, right? You make the decision. Now, many times you've heard me say it's not about whether something is good or bad. It's the time and the situation in which the situation in that, question takes place. So when people ask me, if a financial instrument is a good investment or not, well, I think that that's the wrong question. And the reason I think it's the wrong question is because it's not whether it's a good or bad investment. It's whether this vehicle of multiplying my wealth is the best vehicle at the given time. And this comes down to what I like to call action versus reaction. Inside of an action, let's say you receive a piece of information or a piece of intel about a stock that's going to perform extremely well. Let's say you knew about NVIDIA's performance and the order demand that they were having because you were running the financial department. You have, because of that action, that information, you have the ability to have a reaction. Now, between the action and the reaction is a decision. That decision is directly influenced, whether consciously or subconsciously, by you. Now, you want to become the person that goes from conscious to subconscious decision-making because you become extremely good. But before you become extremely good, you need repetition. So between this action and this reaction, you have what? This decision. This decision needs to be fueled by education. Most of you guys are financially illiterate, which goes to my next point. Inside Capital Club, we're going to be teaching you guys how to read a fucking P&L sheet, how to read an Excel sheet. You have your team, right? We talked about your ideal team for your financial goals, your corporate goals, your personal goals, and your estate. But have you developed the ability to vet their work? If the answer is no, then, well, you have a liability, and the liability is you, my friend. So you need to develop yourself into an asset that protects yourself. It's essential. It's key. So from the action to the reaction is a buffer. That buffer can last as long as you decide, because you are the decision maker, you're the one that's taking the action point. But it needs to be fueled and driven by financial literacy. So as you develop this plan for your financial goals, it needs to be fueled not by ignorance or by desire, but by plan, strategy, and execution. Inside Capital Club, you're going to see a plethora of academy work by various experts, 7, 8, and even 9 figures that have been able to build wealth, preserve wealth, build estates that would boggle your absolute fucking mind. And because of Capital Club, of course, you'll be able to roam through the ecosystem and notice it, but you need to become financially literate, financially educated in order to manage your team efficiently and effectively, make sure that they do not finesse you, and make sure that your goals are achievable and that you're setting your goals not in a reactive fashion because you desire something, but in a proactive fashion. And through proaction versus reaction, you have what? Intentionality. And this intentionality will allow you to reach your goals. Take this equation, take this formula. That, my friends, is the data set. So now that you've established your financial goals, you've developed the financial literacy to make sure that your team is managed efficiently and effectively, you need to, well, go make money. You can protect your money, but if you have no money to protect, then what's the point? Here you have to find the glitches in the system. Money glitches. Money glitches are real, dude. I literally sit down with billionaires and these guys understand how to print money. There are money glitches, but these glitches have to originate from some sort of cause. Cause equals effect. And you can influence the effect through action, but you need to be able to figure out what is the cause of a problem and where can you provide a solution. There's a couple gaps in the marketplace, and I want to mention 4 of them. So in this concept of the money gap, the first gap between a person that has money and is willing to expend that money for something else is your access gap. People are willing to pay for access. So if you want to make money, you must be willing to provide access, to be a bridge, to be some sort of toll collecting system. It's extremely important because access is something that holds power. If you hold the keys, well, then people can pay you to get in the door. Access is important. So many people are willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars to get into an event, or pay millions of dollars to buy a specific vehicle that will give them access to a club, or donate millions of dollars to a nonprofit organization that will give them access to a special dinner with a billionaire that will give them access to a specific club or a room. If you want to gain access to high opportunities, you need to be able to find gaps. First gap is the access gap. The second gap is the time gap. People are willing to pay to save time. Aren't you? You wouldn't be willing to pay a premium for food delivery? You do. You wouldn't be willing to pay a premium for an Uber as opposed to waiting 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes for a taxi, having to pay cash? You do. People are willing to pay for the time gap. That's why people fly in private jets. Most people don't fly in private jets just because it's comfortable. The plane itself, right? There's no real difference between a first class and a private jet. You're still sitting in a seat, but there's a time experience, right? There's a time gap that you're able to satisfy. So remember here, guys, the framework of this data set is now that you can protect your estate, you need to build your estate, so you need to make money. So you need to find these access points, these glitches, these anomalies in order to make money. You need to find these gaps. If you satisfy the market, if you're able to provide value for something that is missing, then you can make a lot of money. The next one is the information gap. People are willing to pay for premium information, whether it's Wall Street, whether it's governments paying for intel and paying spies and building organizations that build satellites to spy on different countries. People are willing to pay for information. I know this because I myself pay tens of thousands of dollars every single year for mentors and coaches and people that are willing to help me level up. Why? Because you're not just paying for information, you're paying for experience and knowledge and the ability to gain intel that will allow you to make better decisions. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for increased probabilities of success. People are willing to pay for money if you can provide access to good information. And the last one is your convenience gap. People pay for convenience. And convenient doesn't necessarily mean less time. Convenient means people are enjoying the process of buying your product, what you have to offer, how you sell it, how it's presented. It's just very convenient. It's very easy. It's very simple. That's why things like Apple Pay work extremely well, or for services like PayPal are very frictionless. Why? Because they're just convenient to use. They're very simple. If you can provide value and understand that there's a gap in convenience, like think about taxis, dude, so fucking inconvenient. Somebody provided the value of making that inconvenience disappear. Somebody solved that problem. And if you solve big problems, you make a lot of money. And you'd be surprised how much money there is in people having to save 10 minutes on a taxi. Tens of billions of dollars and millions of rides a day. So this is just one example of the monetization possibility and opportunity that's connected with providing value and mitigating the distance and these gaps between the seller and the buyer. And of course, the objective, because ultimately people are not buying a product. Hear me out when I say this. People are not buying a product or a service. They're buying the objective. Listen to me, behind the product, behind the service, there's an objective. Somebody could go into a dealership and buy a Lamborghini for 10 different reasons. Somebody could buy a Lamborghini to gift it to his wife. Somebody could buy a Lamborghini because he just became a millionaire. Somebody could buy a Lamborghini because he's so rich that he's just buying another day toy to give it to his son. How you approach these people, how you identify the gaps in these people's lives and provide value in that way is how you make the sale. It's not about the product, it's about your ability to solve the problem. So now that you're able to solve the problem, you have the team that is kind of managing your monetization and making sure that your money is safe. We talked about your team. Now that you have your financial goals, you have financial literacy to make sure that your employees are managed. Now that you're making money, well then, my friend, you need to multiply your money, which we will cover in the next data set. A person that works at McDonald's walks into the Louis Vuitton store. Right behind them, a person that owns a multi-million-dollar a year car dealership walks in right behind. They both go to the counter and they look at the wallets that are at display, the nice leather wallets. One looks at it, sees the price tag, it's $1,000. The other person sees the price tag, it's $1,000. One person looks at it and says, this is just so expensive. The person working at McDonald's looks at this, this is just egregious. The other person looks at it and says, oh, this is quite cheap. Only $1,000? Oh, wow. Let me get 2 of them. And actually, let me get 3. The second individual say, oh, what a greedy bastard. Why the hell does he need 3 wallets? The other guy can't even afford it. Well, I don't even want to consider that scenario. I want to look at the mindset of the situation. Because if you can understand the mindset, then you can understand the worldview, the philosophy. And if you can understand the worldview and the philosophy, you can replicate the actions that led the individuals to the lifestyle that they have based off of what? The worldview. Because the worldview dictates the actions dictate the behavior dictates the lifestyle, and the lifestyle dictates what you have in life. But it all starts with the mindset. So you have the mindset of a winner and you have the mindset of a loser. Now let me explain it because it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with how you perceive a situation. What if I told you there's no such thing as cheap or expensive? What if there's only rich and poor? What if that $1,000 wallet isn't expensive? What if you just don't have money? Now, I know this may sound crazy as a concept, but when you understand this concept, you realize that you can change money and morph money and multiply money extremely quickly by understanding the principle of multiplying your time capital. Now, your time capital at this current state, for most of you guys, is expended at a 1-to-1 ratio. So you spend X amount of hours and you yield X amount of dollars. Now, if you want to become wealthy, you want to be able to spend X amount of hours and you want to be able to create a trickle effect of money that has kind of like an echoing effect. You want to be able to get paid at multiples for your current investment or your current investment of time or effort, whatever it may be. But most people do not look at it that way. Now, why does the McDonald's worker look at that $1,000 wallet and say, this is expensive? The reason they say it's expensive, my friend, it's not because of the wallet. It's not even because of the price tag. It's because of the amount of time that it took them to make the $1,000 that will then lead them to acquire that purchase. So when they look at the wallet, they're not looking at $1,000. They're looking at all the hours and energy and time and effort that it took them to make that $1,000. Does that make sense? Now, the other individual that owns a multi-million-dollar car dealership, they didn't really have to work a whole lot for that $1,000. Therefore, they have no real appreciation for that money because they didn't really put massive amounts of effort towards it. I'm not saying that they don't appreciate the money. I'm saying the money just doesn't hold as much weight. Why? Because there's not as much time, energy, and attention attached to it. So in the multiplication of wealth, it's not just multiplying your investment vehicles, but not just multiplying your teams, but it's multiplying every area and growing every area of your life in a balanced, organized, and systemized fashion. Now, once I understood this concept and it really hit me, I asked myself, okay, now how can I buy things for the least amount of time possible? Not how can I buy things for the least amount of money possible and be a cheap ass, but how can I work the least amount of possible time and yield massive amounts of money? And what I came to realize is that one thing is to make money and another thing is to multiply. That's why in Capital Club's ecosystem, creating is one thing, multiplying is another mindset, and then preserving is a completely different animal in and of itself. So in the multiplication process, what you do is you need to find things, investment vehicles that are low risk, high reward. What does this mean? This means that you shouldn't be buying something, an asset class, when it's overvalued, clearly overvalued. When you look at the watch market, when a watch is 500, 600, 700% over its retail price within weeks of launch, that's overpriced. It doesn't take a genius to understand that that's an overpriced thing. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, but for the general rule of thumb, this idea of massive swings is not really common. So you need to be able to base your investments in your multiplication on what I like to call the winner's formula. Now, the winner's formula is very simple. I don't bet on products. This is my personal thing, guys. I don't bet on market cycles. I don't bet on real estate. I don't bet on speculation. I bet on people. And yes, there's speculation attached to people, but I bet on winners. So some people like to multiply their wealth by investing in companies. I like to multiply my wealth by investing in people. So how I do this is through my private equity firm. So yeah, I make money in the stock market. I make money in e-commerce, but that's just multiplying fiat. I want equity. If you want to build an estate like we talked about, you need to own. So in the multiplication process, it's about ownership. It's about ownership that gives you cash flow. And once I understood that I could stop trading my time for money and that I could really have anything that I wanted if I organized myself effectively and efficiently, then I began to work completely differently. It wasn't about how many hours I worked, because I was willing to work 40 hours fucking straight if it meant that it would yield 400 or 500 hours worth of return. It's all in proportion to what you're receiving. So once you understand this, it's not just about addition, but the multiplication vehicle comes from equity ownership. It comes from not spending your principal capital. Most people are out here spending their principal capital. Let's say you have your e-commerce store and makes $100,000 net profit in a year. You can't go and spend that money. That's not yours to spend, right? You need to figure out where that money is going to be going. You can pay yourself, but it's not yours to spend. in your corporate goals, financial goals, in your personal financial goals, or in your estate, not go out and spend it in the club. That's why most of you guys can't sustain wealth, because it's not just about making a ton of money, it's about multiplying it. Like I mentioned before, at some point you can't work, right? So you need money to be working for you. And the sooner your money works for you, the stronger it works, right? And the more consistent it gets and the more solidified it becomes. I've done it through private equity. It works, and it works extremely well. But finally, it's the preservation of wealth. And the preservation of wealth comes from a very simple process that I like to call longevity outlook. And longevity outlook is an exercise that I like to do on a daily basis where I look at the long-term picture. In social media, it's extremely easy to get saturated with what somebody else is doing in that day. You get FOMO that somebody bought a nice car, you want to compete. But when I look long-term, well, then I've established my estate goals and I'm just working towards filling up that nest. Why? Well, because you never know when shit hits the fan. You never know when something goes sour. And inside this ecosystem and this equation of creating, multiplying, and preserving your wealth, becoming financially literate, mitigating the risk that is associated with onboarding people into your plan by being educated and nurturing these relationships while simultaneously having the necessary goals and the predictable cash flow models, because you understand the gaps in the market that will give you the edge to provide value. Well, then, my friend, you're one step closer to becoming wealthy, healthy, successful, and financially free. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this equation that I've conjured up because, well, frankly, it's the equation that I use. And I think that it is replicatable, it is consistent, and by no means it is limited to one country or one perspective. You can take my model and adapt it and make it your own, but you need to be able to think long-term. Make your goals, build your team, be proactive towards action, be proactive towards making good decisions, not reactive decisions. Set your financial goals, hit your financial goals, build your estate, provide value to the marketplace, and you, my friend, will be very successful.